couples, how do you talk about foreplay to create the best, most natural flow in your marriage? Well, that's what we're talking about today, a plan to talk about foreplay in your marriage. Hi, I'm Mary Whitman Ortiz, Christian sex educator and relationship coach. And on this channel, we talk about how to overcome struggles with sex and intimacy by providing communication and connection tips. And today's talk is on creating a plan to be able to talk about foreplay and get to that sweet flow in your marriage. What all do you need to consider with this? Well, first of all, you need to acknowledge you have different perspectives. Now, don't roll your eyes. Of course, you're different people, and that's partly the reason that you're attracted to one another. But these differences also play out in your expectations for sex, what you thought was going to happen, what you thought the other person wanted. And it's quite possible that these are different places. What does this look like? Well, so one person might think that foreplay is the 10 minutes before intercourse, where there's fooling around happening. Okay. Another person might think this is just the physical part of sex. Somebody else might think there is this whole person intimacy that needs to be happening, this building up of connection to just feel one. All of those things are great, and you need to find out, what do you think about foreplay, and ask your spouse, what do they think about foreplay? Now, some people think, hey, it is just this direct, intense stimulation. And other people think that there's words and there's actions and there's just this whole build up. So foreplay can mean many things to many people. You have to get clear on this. And you also need to understand that some people like the same things in foreplay. Other people want completely different things and more things every time. And I'm not being gender specific because husbands and wives, can fall into different roles. And then B, those roles can change, just how they are experiencing life. And maybe the more safety and security in your marriage, the more freedom there will be to try new things. That's why it's not a once and done. This is just how we're going to do it. What else do you need to be thinking of? Secondly, you need to have understanding as your main goal and not to think we have to be identical and we have to be in complete agreement. Now, I'm not saying that you are doing things that are violently opposed to one another, but just realizing, hey, I want to understand you and know what makes you tick, what gets you excited. Learn about your spouse. You get to be your spouse's best teacher about you, which is fabulous. So be open to how those differences play out and that's a good thing. What else is good about the differences? Well, it could be keeping things fresh. It could be adding more variety. If you only did things your way, then would that get old and not be meaningful? So the differences can help there. You may need to rotate. Okay, tonight it's going to be his focus. The next time it's going to be her focus. Just once again, to allow both sets of preferences and expectations to have their place in the relationship. And here's another thing I want to encourage you. Have humor about your sex life. And I can just hear it now. You remember that one thing we tried and oh my gosh, that did not turn out like we thought it was going to. I'm glad we tried it, but nope, don't need to do it again. So you can have that lightheartedness because this is a marriage of a lifetime. You have years to explore and to enjoy. Don't have to feel like there's pressure to measure up. It's not about performance. And so it's okay if you try something new, it did not quite turn out like you thought. Those differences, the variety will keep you vibrant and growing. Okay, I have a third point for you. You've got to buckle in for this one. I need you to address the blocks. What are some of those blocks? Well, he might feel critiqued and judged and rejected. And there's no way that he wants to engage in sex if he feels like his wife is just mean to him and cuts him down. It's a real thing. So that needs to have a safe space to be brought up. She might feel that these things are uncomfortable emotionally. Maybe she has past experiences, abuse, there's triggers, trauma, there's fear about, oh no, he won't like my body and I've aged. And so these kinds of hesitations are real and they will impact you even if you're not thinking about it. You cannot suppress them away and still have healthy intimacy. Also, your culture and your beliefs have impacted you. And even if you grew up in the house next door, you went to the same high school, you went to the same church, you still will have different beliefs. And because your parents are different. So you cannot assume that the way you see sex, the way you see marriage, the way you see life, hey, the way you see God, you can't assume that that is identical to your spouse. All right, we've covered a lot. We're not quite finished. Am I helping so far? If that's a yes, you're getting some questions answered, please give me a thumbs up. I have 2 more points for you. This next one is to envision the ideal scenario. If you want to have great foreplay, you have to know what your plan is, what your goal is. What could that look like? Is that flirting? Is that a buildup? Is that a lot of teasing types of touches? Okay, then keep that. You can write down, you can have a sex journal and come up with things that are just right for you. You need to know your top erogenous zones and your top types of touch. It's not just where, but it's how. It's when you're being touched. Have to give that some thought. If you're going to be a teacher to your spouse, these are important things to know. And truly, you need to know that foreplay includes words and touch. And those words are the triple A words. This is appreciation, affirmation, and affection. So we're getting closer and closer with those types of words. And the touch that needs to happen in foreplay, it would start with indirect. We're not just zeroing in on the genitalia. So it's indirect before it's direct. It's also light or soft before it's firm or intense. And there's variety in the speed of how you touch your spouse and going back and forth between indirect and direct. So it's a dance and you get to discover that together. So knowing how you like it and want it will help. I think spontaneous foreplay is wonderful. Just don't bank on it because there are very few things you can bank on with being spontaneous. Okay, my 5th and final point for you is your plan, your actual plan for talking. You need to know about the location. Outside the bedroom, inside the bedroom. There's different topics to talk about each place. You need to know when is a good time to talk about this. Are you rested well in the morning? Do you want to talk about it on date night? And you also need to have a plan for when to revisit foreplay. Like, are we going to talk about it once a month, quarterly, twice a year? What's going on with foreplay? Do we like it? Do we want to try something else? It's great to keep that alive and not on the back burner all the time. I want you to have labels that you're comfortable with for sexual body parts, for sexual activities, and all of those things are going to make for a fabulous foreplay. Now, maybe you need some more tips. I threw a lot at you today, but I have a relationship tool I'd love to share with you. It's called the Arousal pathway. So it's a video and a study guide. It includes a script you could use, some prompts for the right questions, and all the things that you need to take your foreplay to the place of your dreams. Listen, thanks so much for tuning in with me today. And remember that God's design for healthy sex is fulfilling and thrilling intimacy in marriage.